I, 32, female, have an ex who is 33, male, and we have two children, a 10-year-old girl and a 9-year-old boy. My ex and I had a difficult start in life. I fell pregnant pretty quickly after we started dating. Our daughter was born with leukemia, and we spent the first few years of our relationship in the hospital. She is now in remission, thankfully. We also had another child during this time. Additionally, our son is autistic. After being together for 6 years, we split up indefinitely when our children were 6 and 5, which was very hard for both me and him. After healing for about 1.5 years, I began dating my current boyfriend. Let's call him Jake, not his real name. Jake was really lovely and kind and took it slow with me. After a year, I introduced him to my kids. At first, my daughter was not very happy with the situation, but eventually she grew to tolerate him. Jake even has a civil relationship with my ex. Eventually, Jake moved in with my children and me, and he has been living with us for about 2 months now. When my daughter was born with leukemia, my ex and I both decided to get separate life insurance just in case anything happened to us. When we originally got them, we decided that we would be each other's trustee and also would receive 30% of the insurance, and the rest would go to our children. After we had our son, we updated our life insurances with his name also on it. We have both still honored that. Our reasoning for this is that if one of us was to go while our children were still young, then the other would be left as a single parent and may need some support and stability. I still feel very strongly about this. Now on to the issue. Jake was cleaning up flies in my office while I was at work and came across my life insurance agreement. While I was at work, he sent me a message saying, "We need to discuss something important when you get home." Obviously, I was freaking out and tried calling him, but he would not answer me and said he was too angry to talk to me. I run my own business, so I took off early and drove home. Before I left, I messaged Jake to say I'm on my way home. When I arrived, I saw Jake on the sofa glaring at me. He threw the life insurance papers at me and demanded to explain myself. I picked them up and asked what the problem was. He began to scream at me and said, "Why is your ex on your insurance and I'm not?" I explained to him my reasons above, and he scoffed and said, "Well, you both make so much money now, you don't need to support one another." I was extremely angry at this and told him that it was not his business who I put on my life insurance. The money is mainly for my children and ex, and it will stay that way. Jake replied, "Well, I put so much work into this relationship and I'm not going to get anything from it. No normal man would want a woman with 2 children who has issues." I saw red. I kicked him out and told him we were done. My children will always come first, and I will never let anyone get in the way of that. Jake packed his bags and left. While he was packing, he shouted at me that I never really got over my ex, and we still love each other, blah, blah, blah. He knew it from the start, and I'm such an for not putting him on my life insurance. So Reddit, I have to ask, am I the idiot? Edit, I should have added this also. This did happen a few weeks ago. I haven't seen him since then, but I'm constantly receiving messages from him and calls. Mini update. So before I start with a little update, I want to say thank you for all the comments. I'm going to go through them all and try to reply, even though it's a lot. I just want to address a few things. This did happen a few weeks ago, and I did post in another group, but unfortunately I got no advice on that subreddit. I had left it for a few weeks before my ex suggested this one because his words were, "Maybe these internet strangers would make you see sense and stop you thinking you're a jerk. Also, could help you see you shouldn't get back with Jake." Just wanted to clear that up. Firstly, I should have probably added this in the post. My ex and I are definitely not getting back together. We are very good friends, as I am with his husband. My ex always thought he was gay, but he is not from the UK, and his parents would disapprove, which they have done, so they cut ties with him. I was upset to start with, but I love them both dearly. I was even the best woman at their wedding. So yes, I definitely am over my ex. My ex, his husband, and I are currently having a lovely glass of wine and discussing the issues around Jake. For the people saying it's not right that I have my ex on my life insurance, let me just explain my point of view. Our son is autistic, so he has a lot of issues around his autism. Our daughter, due to chemotherapy, is deaf in one ear and is currently in a wheelchair and has multiple appointments. I am very wealthy, and my ex-partner is not. We opted to do private care to get the best for our children. I'm leaving him some money for our children and to help him and his husband financially if anything were to happen to me. I 1000% trust my ex with our kids' money. My children will inherit all my properties and money. I do have a will, so everything in that sense is sorted. They have trust funds and never need to worry about their future. My life insurance is all my ex gets money from, and a few thousand from my own personal money, as does his husband. Now on to Jake. Currently, my ex, his husband, and I are packing up Jake's things, and they are going to take it to his parents' house. I informed his parents that Jake and I are no longer together, and that we will drop off his stuff at their house. They were sad and wished me well, as did I to them. Jake continually called me and texted me, which I have ignored these past few weeks, and I ignored him. He has been pleading with me about taking him back and how much he loves me and my kids. However, just an hour ago, he sent the most vile messages I've ever had in my life, calling my daughter a spoiled, dramatic little bitch who uses her illness to get her way. He called my son some disgusting things that I won't even repeat. At this point, I was done. I messaged him one final message saying that if he continued to try reaching out to me, I will be filing for a protection order against him and blocked him on all platforms. Also, I screenshotted the last message he sent and forwarded it to his ex and his family. I am very aware that it is petty, but I do not care. No one gets away with saying that about my children. I really think I will take a break from dating for a while and concentrate on me and my little family, which includes the father of my kids and his husband. I'm so upset that there were red flags there that I just chose to ignore or was really oblivious to. Little edit. I know I said I wouldn't post what he said, but screw it. He's a horrible human, and I've had a few glasses of wine, lol. He called my daughter a cripple butt and called my son a ret-erded freak. So he can go frick himself. I'm probably just going to leave this post now. Time to heal and focus on my beautiful kids. Thank you so much for all the comments and advice. I hope you are all blessed, and I appreciate everyone's opinions, advice, and support. I will definitely be taking a lot of points into my heart. Thank you. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I didn't get halfway through this post before I was screaming in my head, "Red flag, run away." Snooping in your private papers. Red flag, demanding to be placed as your beneficiary. Red flag, not accepting that you are doing this to provide for your kids. Huge red flag, being jealous and threatened by your ex. Big red flag, I think you dodged a bullet. Go ahead and make his move out official and call things off. Comment 2, not the idiot. Jake was clearly snooping in your papers while you were at work, and you're right telling him it's not his business. Your ex is your kid's father, so it makes sense for him to be on it for their sake, because he will be the one raising them if anything happens to you. Jake showed his true colors and his insecurities about your ex. He also showed how he really feels about your children. You were right to get rid of him. Now for the update. Hey Reddit, back again with another update. It's been a wild few days since my last post, and I've got some major developments to share. I've been trying to process everything, and honestly, it's been a lot to handle. First off, let me just say that the support from this community has been incredible. It's helped me stay strong through this mess. Now on to the update. After I blocked Jake and sent those screenshots to his family, I thought that would be the end of it. But boy, was I wrong. 2 days ago, I was at home with the kids when there was a knock at the door. It was Jake, looking disheveled and desperate. He begged to talk, saying he had nowhere else to go after his family disowned him for the things he said about our kids. I was firm, told him there was nothing to discuss, and shut the door on him. But he didn't leave. Instead, he sat on my porch for hours until my ex and his husband came over and convinced him to leave. It was tense, and the kids were scared, which broke my heart. Now, let's rewind a bit to give you some context about Jake. When we first met, he was charming and seemed to understand the complexities of my life. He knew about my kids' health issues and my close relationship with my ex and his husband. He even volunteered to help with my son's therapy sessions and attended my daughter's medical appointments. I thought I had found someone who could handle our unique family dynamic. But as time went on, I noticed Jake's patience thinning. He would get frustrated when plans changed last minute due to the kids' needs. I chalked it up to the stress of moving in and adjusting to living with children. I should have seen the red flags, but I was blinded by the hope of finding a partner who could be part of our family. Back to the present, after Jake finally left my porch, I thought we could move on. But the next day, I received a call from my daughter's school. She had a meltdown, which was unusual for her. When I picked her up, she confessed that Jake had been sending her messages, trying to manipulate her into convincing me to take him back. I was livid. My daughter, who had been through so much already, was now being targeted by someone she trusted. I reassured her that none of this was her fault and that I would handle it. I immediately contacted a lawyer and started the process for a protection order. I couldn't believe Jake would stoop so low. It was a betrayal that cut deep, especially after everything we had been through as a family. Now let's talk about my ex for a moment. He's been my rock through all of this. Despite our past, we've always put our kids first. When we were together, we faced challenges that would have torn many couples apart. We grew up fast, dealing with our daughter's illness and learning to support our son with his autism. Our relationship didn't survive, but our friendship did, and it's stronger than ever. After the incident with Jake, my ex and his husband have been staying over more often to help out and provide support. We've been a team, handling the kids' meeting, appointments, and daily routines together. It's been a reminder of the bond we share, not just as co-parents, but as friends who have weathered the toughest storms. Yesterday, my ex and I had a long talk about everything that's happened. We shared our fears and frustrations, and he reassured me that I was doing the right thing by protecting our kids from Jake. It was a moment of vulnerability that we hadn't shared in a long time. But it also made me realize that the love we have for each other now is different from before. It's not romantic, but it's deep and unwavering. As for Jake, I haven't heard from him since I started the protection order. I hope it stays that way. I'm focusing on healing and rebuilding the safe and loving environment my kids need. It's going to be a journey, but with my ex and his husband by my side, I know we'll get through it. And my wife suggested an open marriage but was already cheating with her best friend. I filed for divorce, yet the baby's mine, and now we're stuck together. Hey guys, so my wife, who is 30 years old, and I, who is 33 years old, have been married for 8 years. We have had some ups and downs during our marriage. 5 years ago, I found out that my wife cheated on me with a man she knew from Tinder. She told me that they hooked up around 3 times. I was initially shocked and wanted to divorce her because cheating is a deal breaker for me. However, she apologized and expressed that she loves only me. She tried her best to regain my trust, and eventually I did trust her again. Now let me introduce you to my wife's best friend, Chris, who is a 31-year-old man. They have known each other for about 15 years. Whenever we have issues in our marriage, my wife always confides in him. Chris is single and has had some relationships, but they never lasted long. I am aware that he has feelings for my wife. He often tells me that he wants a girlfriend like her and even goes as far as saying that I don't deserve her. I never gave it much thought, thinking Chris was just a bit of a flatterer, and I never believed he had a chance with my wife. Fast forward 6 months ago, we once again faced some challenges in our marriage. To my surprise, my wife suggested the idea of an open marriage. I was taken aback and immediately expressed my disinterest. At this point, we hadn't had intimacy in about 8 months, and she never seemed to be in the mood for it. After numerous unsuccessful attempts to have intimacy with her, I eventually stopped trying because I didn't want to pressure her. I love intimacy, so being sexless for 8 months made me quite unhappy. As I thought more about her suggestion, I became more willing to give it a try, so I agreed. Initially, she was confused, but ultimately we both agreed and established some rules. These rules included no emotional involvement with anyone we have intimacy with, no engaging in intimacy activities in our apartment. informing each other when we have intimacy with someone else, and always practicing safe intimacy. I have a flirtatious female coworker who is 28 years old. Let's call her Sarah. I had always sensed that she was somewhat interested in me. One night after work, as we walked to the bus stop together, I shared the concept of our open marriage with her. She immediately became intrigued and showed great interest. She even made a joke that if I wanted to make a move, I could ask her. So I told her about the rules and the importance of keeping emotions out of it. She asserted that she finds me sexually attractive, but it would strictly be about physicality, with no emotional attachment. The following day, I discussed Sarah with my wife, and she gave me the green light. A few days later, I went to Sarah's place, and we had intimacy. It felt good, but it was not the same as being intimate with my wife. In the days that followed, my wife became distant and we hardly spoke. I knew something was wrong, so I confronted her. Initially, I thought it might be because I had intimacy with Sarah. However, I was mistaken. My wife confessed to having had intimacy with Chris. Upon hearing this, I angrily yelled at her, and we got into a huge fight. Not only did she break the rule of not informing me when she had intimacy with someone else, but she also violated the rule about emotions. She tried to excuse herself by claiming that we had never clearly established whether we should tell each other before or after having intimacy with someone else. However, what really upset me was that she was attempting to convince me that Chris doesn't have feelings for her. In her eyes, I was overreacting. I have not spoken to her in 2 days and am currently staying with a friend. In my mind, I keep thinking that Chris is somehow manipulating my wife to separate from me. So, am I the idiot? Edit 1. It seems like I am a bit of a flatterer myself. Oh, the irony. Update. Thanks to all the harsh comments calling me names like a loser, idiot, or doormat, it has helped me realize my mistakes. Anyhow, I have an update and will answer some questions. Yes, my wife is quite attractive, as I have heard from colleagues on multiple occasions. She's into activities like Pilates, yoga, and fitness. Additionally, she had a breast job 6 years ago, which I paid for. She has a nice figure with a great butt, brown hair, and green eyes. On the other hand, I am fairly average looking, except for my height and physique. I don't have much else going for me. Because of my wife's dedication to fitness, I also got into it and ended up in good shape. My best friend and I have concluded that she is only with me for financial security. I have a solid education, a well-paying job, and my parents are wealthy. Meanwhile, my wife hasn't been working for the past 3 years or so. I had plans to buy a house this year. Yes, I also believe that my wife had intimacy with Chris and possibly other men before this incident. Now let's get to the update. I am still staying at my friend's place. In my mind, this marriage is over and I am planning to file for divorce. I tried to discuss this with her over the phone yesterday, but she didn't answer my calls for about 3 hours. So before going to bed, I sent her a text explaining that it is probably best for us to separate and that I intend to file for divorce. I woke up to a bunch of messages from her. Initially, she was angry, but then she shifted to apologizing and expressing a desire to work things out. We agreed to meet today, so the next update will likely be the last. Update 2. This will probably be my final update. I had lunch with my wife earlier, and it was blatantly obvious that she was once again trying to manipulate me. She confessed that she and Chris have been having intimacy for over a year now. She started crying, blaming herself, and expressing a desire to reconcile. However, I have had enough of this situation. I informed her that I am going to file for divorce and left her crying at the restaurant. I have already made arrangements with our family lawyer. I will be staying at my dad's place for a few days to allow things to cool off. He is very supportive and is actively assisting me with the divorce process. Thank you all again for the comments. I may provide another update in about a week or so. We will see how this messy situation plays out. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. My guy, will you please have some self-respect and leave this woman? This is some of the most ridiculous stuff I've read. She cheated on you multiple times, opened the marriage up because she doesn't find you attractive, and then doesn't even follow the rules. She doesn't respect you. Comment 2. She has been sleeping with Chris, dude. The open up the marriage thing was so she could escape the guilt because she was already sleeping with him. Divorce? There is no relationship here. You're roommates, and that doesn't even come with benefits. Now for the update. Hey guys, thanks for sticking with me through this mess. I really appreciated all the advice and tough love from my last post. Here's what's gone down since then. So after I left my wife crying at the restaurant, I thought that was it. I was ready to move on. But life had other plans. I stayed at my dad's place, trying to clear my head and get my ducks in a row for the divorce. My dad, who's always been a rock, kept telling me I was doing the right thing. He reminded me of how my mom left him when I was just a kid and how he had to pick up the pieces. He said I was stronger than I knew. But then, things got complicated. My wife started blowing up my phone with texts and calls. She was begging for another chance, saying she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. I tried to ignore her, but she was relentless. She even showed up at my dad's place, which was the last thing I expected. My dad was furious, told her to leave, but she wouldn't budge until she talked to me. I agreed to talk, just to get her to leave. She told me she was pregnant. Yeah, you read that right. Pregnant. My world stopped for a second. She said it was mine, but how could I believe her after everything? I demanded a paternity test, and she agreed. While waiting for the results, I couldn't help but think about the past. I remembered how we met at a friend's party, how she laughed at my jokes, and how we danced all night. We were inseparable after that. I thought we had something special, but now I wasn't sure what was real. Then there's Chris. I've known him almost as long as my wife has. We were never close, but I tolerated him because he was her friend. I remember how he'd always be around, offering her a shoulder to cry on. I should have seen the signs, but I trusted her. I thought back to the times he'd come over, how he'd look at her, and I felt like a fool. The paternity test came back. The kid was mine. I was going to be a dad. That hit me hard. I always wanted kids, but not like this, not in the middle of a storm. My wife was ecstatic, saying this was a sign we were meant to be together. But I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. I talked to Sarah, my coworker, about everything. She was shocked and didn't know what to say. She told me she'd support whatever decision I made, but I could tell she was hurt. I felt guilty for dragging her into this mess. She didn't deserve it. The divorce was put on hold because of the baby. My wife moved back in, but things were tense. We barely spoke, and when we did, it was about the baby. She tried to be affectionate, but I couldn't forget her with Chris. It was like a wall between us. Then, one day I came home early from work. I found Chris's car parked outside. My heart sank. I walked in and heard them arguing in the bedroom. I pushed the door open, and there they were. Chris was trying to convince her to leave me, saying they could raise the baby together. I lost it. I yelled at him to get out, and he finally did, but not before throwing a smug look my way. My wife was crying, saying she was confused and scared. I didn't know what to feel. Angry, betrayed, sad, it was all a blur. I told her I needed space to think. I went to my dad's again. He could see the pain in my eyes. He told me about how he fought for custody of me, how he never gave up. He said sometimes life tests you, but you have to stand up for what's right. I decided to fight for my child. I didn't want my kid to grow up in a broken home like I did. But I also couldn't be with someone I didn't trust. I told my wife we'd co-parent, but our marriage was over. She pleaded, but I was firm. The divorce proceedings started again. It was messy, with her trying to get alimony and a good chunk of my assets. But my lawyer was a shark, and we managed to come to a fair agreement. As for Chris, turns out he was seeing another woman the whole time he was with my wife. She found out and dumped him. Last I heard, he was trying to win my wife back, but she wasn't having it. I guess he got a taste of his own medicine. I'm focusing on being the best dad I can be. It's not going to be easy, but I'm ready for the challenge. My wife is still living with me until the baby comes, but we're like strangers under the same roof. My nephew hits my high-risk pregnant belly, so I scold him, but his mom spreads nasty rumors and the family splits. Now we're keeping our distance. I, 27-year-old female, and my husband, 30-year-old male, have been together for 7 years and are currently expecting. I am 27 weeks pregnant, and at the time of this event, I was 25 weeks. The other important people in this situation are my younger brother, 23-year-old male, his girlfriend, 23-year-old female, and their child, 6-year-old male. They are obviously young parents and had their baby when they were still in high school. As I mentioned, I am 27 weeks pregnant, and my doctor has told me that I have a high-risk pregnancy due to placenta previa. Feel free to Google if you'd like. Because of this condition, I have no choice but to have a scheduled C-section when it's time. When I found out, this was really upsetting news, as I always planned on having a natural birth. However, above all else, I want my baby to be healthy, and me, so it is what it is. My other sister-in-law, my husband's sister, Carrie, has been really supportive of me and my pregnancy, and we talk a lot. Well, recently there was a family gathering, and of course my husband and I went. I was sitting with Carrie, talking about work, when my brother's child comes over. He's just 6, like I said, and he was really interested in my belly. He asked me why I was fat, and he kept reaching towards my bump. I grabbed my nephew's hands and explained to him that I have a baby in my tummy and that pretty soon he's going to have a baby cousin. I told him it's okay to touch my bump, but he should be gentle. I mentioned that I'm supposed to be on light bed rest because of my previa, but obviously I didn't tell this child that. This little kid, not exaggerating, he's also just horrible, reaches and touches my belly before winding back and punching me. Holy shoot, that little kid has some power. Immediately, Carrie and I scold him and remind him that 1, he needs to keep his hands to himself, and 2, it was very mean and dangerous to hit my belly. He apologized and then ran off. A few minutes later, his mother, my brother's girlfriend, comes up to me and asks me what I told her son. I explained what happened, exactly how it happened. She told me that her son was upset because I yelled at him. Internally, I thought, yeah, I bet he is, because he never gets disciplined in general. He's a spoiled child, and his parents let him do whatever he wants. Externally, I apologized for it, but reminded her that he needed to not hit my tummy or in general. She rolled her eyes and just walked away. About an hour later, my husband and I were getting ready to leave, so I stood up and went to tell my brother goodbye. He was standing with his son, and as soon as I was within reach of him, the kid reached out and smacked me in my stomach again. Hard. I doubled over that time, and my husband immediately started scolding the child while making sure I was okay. My brother's girlfriend started to lose her mind about us parenting her kid for her, resulting in my husband getting loud with her about how the kid is a brat and needed it. This led to a large argument between my brother and husband, which most of our family witnessed. Now, half of my family is mad at her, and the other half is mad at me. I understand that my husband probably didn't handle it the best, but the child was literally hitting me. I feel like I'm not the jerk, but I'm open to hearing the other side. Thanks. Update. A few people asked for an update, so here it is. First, my baby and I are fine. I had a checkup appointment the next day, and everything was perfectly fine. I'm expecting a girl, for those who were curious. As for my nephew, his father, my brother, ended up apologizing for his son's actions, but only to my husband. I told my husband that I would be keeping away from my nephew until our baby is born. At that point, I'd have to really be convinced to let the kid around my newborn daughter. He agreed. I also probably won't let my sister-in-law see the baby when she's born, not that she will want to. Thank you so much for all the support. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Tell her the next time her child lays a hand on you in violence, you will call Child Protective Services, CPS, that you will not allow him to abuse you with zero consequences just because she's a terrible parent. Tell the family that is mad at you they're welcome to be the kid's punching bag in your place. And if something happens to the baby due to your medical condition and his hitting you, you will cut off all those that enable the little troublemaker. Comment 2. Don't parent my child. Well, someone has to cookie. Either you do it or I will. I had an aunt like this. Her son was a little devil. She got angry with me too. In the end, I reminded her that if she's his mother, then mother him so someone else doesn't have to. Today, it was your nephew's aunt and uncle. Tomorrow, as in years from now, it's a stranger who's going to discipline him. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments and advice on my last post. I promised an update, so here it is. It's been a month since the incident at the family gathering, and boy, has it been a roller coaster. My husband and I were still reeling from the chaos when my brother tried to smooth things over. He apologized again, this time to both of us, and admitted he needed to work on his parenting. I appreciated the gesture, but it didn't change the fact that I was still shaken up and worried about my baby. My sister-in-law, on the other hand, has been a different story. She's been cold and distant since the argument, and it's clear she still doesn't think her son did anything wrong. It's been tough because we used to be close, but now there's this tension that just won't go away. Now, for the heartbreak. My husband and I have been trying to keep the peace, but things took a turn for the worse when we found out that my sister-in-law had been spreading rumors about us. She told some family members that we were overreacting and that I wasn't really in any danger from the hits to my belly. This caused a huge rift in the family, with people taking sides and the drama escalating. The worst part was when my own parents started to doubt me. They wondered if maybe I was being too sensitive, and that hurt more than anything. It felt like a betrayal, especially when I needed their support the most. But the real shock came when my husband's sister, Carrie, confessed something that left me speechless. She had overheard my sister-in-law admitting to someone that she was jealous of the attention my pregnancy was getting. That's why she hadn't stopped her son from hitting me, and why she was trying to downplay the seriousness of my condition. I couldn't believe it. The idea that she would put my baby at risk out of jealousy was just unthinkable. It was a betrayal that cut deep, and it changed the way I saw her completely. In the midst of all this, my husband has been my rock. He's been so protective of me and the baby, and I don't know what I'd do without him. We've had long talks about what to do, and we've decided to keep our distance from my brother and his girlfriend for the time being. It's not an easy decision, but we have to put our baby's safety first. As for my nephew, it's been a complicated mix of emotions. I still love him. He's family, but I'm also scared of what he might do. We've decided that he won't be allowed around the baby until we see some real changes in his behavior. In the end, the whole situation has been a harsh reminder that family isn't always what you expect it to be. Sometimes the people you love can hurt you the most, and you have to make tough choices to protect yourself and the ones you love. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.